abundant right now, and all these dogs, and parents don't know why, and they keep trying to figure out what's going on. And you know, it's like kind of we all have to take a step back and say, well, what are we putting in our dogs' bodies from all these different medications for these little issues that they have, you know, from the fleas, the ticks, the heartworms, the atopicas, the apiquals, the steroids, just all this stuff is a burden on their body. And then when their bodies react, pet parents don't know what to do. So, right. You know, if they just think about how this feeding helps their dog, they're going to come to a realization that, you know what, I wish I would have did this a lot sooner, which is exactly what I said. But I can't change the past. I can only change my future. And this is why, you know, we keep talking about this and saying it. So I know another question that a lot of pet parents ask, and we get a lot of argument with this on our page, especially when people see us feeding it, is that they've always been taught that you cannot feed avocados, you cannot feed tomatoes, and you cannot feed grapes. But yet Howie eats it all, and Howie's still here and alive. And how is that possible?
Well, you know, on the list of foods that are verboten for dogs, there are some foods that are legitimately bad for dogs. Chocolate, onion, garlic is bad for dogs. There's a few others that are legitimate. Avocados are hard to digest, so I don't recommend feeding them with other plants because they can kind of sit there. They're very fatty plant food, so I recommend feeding them alone. But they're perfectly safe. I've fed them to my own dog. I know lots of people that feed them.
Common sense is you don't feed the skin and you don't feed the seed.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I would not want my dog to have an avocado pit because those things are very slimy. You can hardly, you know, hang on to them. It's easy to imagine that thing going down into the stomach. And dogs can swallow bones and they will be dissolved in the stomach, in the digestive juices. If they swallow an avocado pit, it's either going to get stuck or it's going to have to come out the other end because they cannot break down that very dense cellulose. But the grape issue is entirely mythological and made up. And the way that we can know that for sure is they still add grape products to pet foods in Europe. I mean, it's a common additive in pet foods in Europe where they don't have this grape paranoia. But we also have the result of a study that was done quite a while ago where they use dogs to simulate humans. You know, they do that all the time in animal research. They use other animals to simulate humans. Well, the study was trying to show whether, and there's been, you know, rumors floating around that if you stop eating everything that you eat normally and eat only grapes for a month, your diseases will go away. Well, lots of people are actually doing that. It's called the grape cure, and it's just removal of cause because you're getting rid of all the stuff that's causing your problems and eating only foods that your body is designed to eat. So, but they actually tried this in dogs. So they fed them lots of grapes, and then they had a control group, and they fed them, you know, commercial pet food or whatever dogs would normally eat. And the dogs that ate nothing but grapes were actually healthier at the end of the study than the control group. And I was just reading the other day in a book that I have by a vet, a very courageous, rare vet who thinks outside, or used to think outside the box. He practiced in the 50s. He's dead now. But he fasted dogs, and he did mono fruit meals with dogs. And grapes are one of the foods that he fed. And he would feed nothing but grapes for 30 days to dogs to cure their sicknesses. And he always had excellent results. I mean, so many thousands of people still either obliviously feed grapes to their dogs because they don't know about this. I mean, that's changing because everybody knows about it, right? But who defy the nonsense and feed grapes to their dogs. Well, you know, the way something like this gets started is a dog that's eating kibble every day might have kidneys that are on the verge of collapse. And it just happens to coincide that, you know, an owner feeds a grape or feeds a raisin, and grapes and raisins are two different foods. I don't feed raisins. I don't think raisins should necessarily be fed, but I don't feed any dried fruit at all. But, you know, the owner just happens to feed a grape or two, and the dog starts having issues, and they take the dog and to the vet, and the vet says, did you feed, and has the dog gotten into anything? And they go, oh yes, because everybody knows about the grape thing now. Oh yes, my dog had a grape. Or, you know, or they'll call the poison line or whatever, and the poison line will say, take them to the vet, and they don't even wait for symptoms. They just pump the stomach or induce vomiting. So, you know, there have been actually very few cases, and even the few cases where a dog has been presumably harmed by eating grapes, they haven't been investigated. They haven't been, we don't know what else the dog ate. All we know is that the vet heard the word grape and assigned the blame to grapes. But in the meantime, we've got mountains and mountains of evidence that grapes aren't poisonous.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. So that's good, because I know a lot of people's concern is about that with the grapes. Same thing goes for tomatoes as well.
Grapes. There's lots of other fruits that you can feed. You don't have to feed them. Absolutely.
Yeah. I you know, like I said, Howie, I have, in the beginning when we started, there were some fruits that he was not keen on. So I would just learn what he liked and feed him what he liked. And then as months and things went on, I would reintroduce that fruit that he didn't like before, like papaya, for example. You know, I fed it to him again later on, and now he eats it, and he eats everything. He eats all kinds of, you know, fruits and vegetables, and he eats more fruits and vegetables than my kids do, which is good. So, and I will say too, with Howie, he is doing 1 meat day and 1 plant day. That's the schedule that I have him on. He's 52 pounds. He gets about 10 ounces in the morning and 10 ounces in the evening on meat day. And he does great. I can feed him a variety of different meats. We've talked about it before. The leaner, the better. I do bones. I do organs. I kind of like, because he does well with everything. He's been pretty much raw fed since he was a puppy. And then on our plant day, we just, you know, he gets his percentage of plant on that day, and he's great with everything. Some people will ask though, okay, because he's 3. So some people will say, you know, is this something, can I start I'm getting a new puppy, or I just got a new puppy. Can I start RMF, you know, on my puppy? Or some people will say, well, my dog is 5. Is he too far gone? You know, or has he been eating kibble too long to where I can't switch him now? In which case I say, it's never too late to start. I mean, we've had dogs that have been older and they become puppies again because they're starting to eat clean. And then what better way to start your puppy off on a good start by feeding them a appropriate diet, a common sense diet, a healthy diet. So like Howie, they don't have any issues going into life because they're eating clean, basically. Yeah. So there's no such thing as the wrong time, right? To start.
No, there's no such thing as the wrong time, and it's never too late. I'll just tell you that my parents' dog was 14 when they finally started feeding him properly, and he just turned 19, and he's a big dog. He's like a 50-pound Aussie. So he might make it to 20. And, you know, it's like if you're carrying a burden your whole life and you're carrying that burden and you think you have no choice but to carry that burden, you get to be 70 years old and somebody comes along and says, oh, I can carry that for you. Wouldn't you do that? Because that's what commercial food is to the body. It's a burden, and it's never too late to remove the burden.